crash in 2008?
No. Do you expand on that? The point being that you can't just have women in power when Hillary Clinton is willing to take £800,000 from Goldman Sachs for the sake of 2 speeches. So how do we address that?
Well, the point the woman in Iceland was making is that when it's one woman, it's token. When it's 2 women, it's a minority. You know, women don't have political power in the United States. Only 20% of Congress are women. And so electing a woman president, the men in charge remain in charge. So that's not going to fix the problem in that way. It only
His question is Donald Trump, is it worth throwing it at the American establishment and seeing what that could create, and some good could come of it, and Hillary Clinton is just more the same?
Well, you've made my point. I think a lot of Americans are going to vote for him for that reason. And I think that's a dangerous thing to do. I don't think he's Bernie Sanders was the right Molotov to throw. So, look, let me say this about Hillary too, that because I am an optimist, I believe, look, she's a woman who grew up in my generation. The women of my generation, the feminist movement of the 60s and 70s, changed things significantly. We're not halfway near where we need to be, but man, they paid a price. And Hillary paid a huge price for this. And there's a part of me that feels like, well, not feels like, I know she hasn't forgotten how she was treated. And there's a chance that a President Hillary Clinton could end up all of a sudden being a Pope Francis in this shocking way, right? You remember, right? Remember when if you're an educated person, you know that he was the Archbishop during the disappearance in Argentina, right? Remember anybody the day he was named Pope? It was like, oh shit, right? Anybody? You know, nobody follows the Pope elections? And then like a month later, atheists go to heaven. Gay people, good. It's just like one thing after another. I'm thinking, whoa, he is upsetting the traditional church here, which was I thought a great thing. She may end up doing the same.
If the movement that maybe Bernie Sanders is part of puts pressure, that's the point, isn't it?
And the pressure from the people voting has moved Hillary to the left. You know, I don't want to just completely dismiss Hillary because I think that there's a good chance here. Can I just tell a quick little story?
I mean, it's security drags off fine.
Are we in trouble with somebody
Could
here?
be, probably. That's flashing, it's red.
Isn't this the city hall or what are we in?
Is this like an occupation now? Is this like civil disobedience? We're all going to march out afterwards with pitchforks and torches and stage a revolution. Tomorrow.
There's 3 countries that didn't make it in the film that we went to. Canada, Austria, and Estonia. We went to Canada to show how they do elections, similar to what you do. But they still use a number 2 pencil and a piece of paper. So there's you can actually see the paper trail of the votes if you need to recount them. And we want to encourage that in the US. We don't believe in computer voting. Number 2, we went to Austria because they lowered the voting age to 16. You did that for your Scottish referendum. I love this idea. And now, in the countries that have lowered it to 16, their 18 to 25-year-olds are voting at a higher percentage than they used to because they started them voting in high school. And they had brought candidates in for debates. They got kids going in high school. And they found it to be a really smart idea. I think it's a good idea. The third place we went to was Estonia. We went there because Estonia, according to the World Health Organization, has the best maternal mortality rate in the world. In other words, the least number of women die in childbirth in Estonia than any other country. You have a 3 times greater chance in Cleveland, Ohio, if you're giving birth, of dying in childbirth than you do in Estonia. So we take the ferry there, and we go to the big hospital in their capital city, the maternity ward. The head doctor's giving me the tour of the maternity ward, and on the wall is this framed photo. And I stopped him and I said, wait a minute, I think I know this person in the photograph. And I looked a little closer, and it's a young Hillary Clinton. And he goes, and that's me, 1993. I said, you're kidding me, she was here in this hospital? He goes, yes. What was she doing here in Estonia? She wanted to study the same thing you're studying, the maternal mortality rate, which has always been #1 here with us. And I said, so she was putting together her universal health plan that she wanted to get enacted. He goes, right, and we were helping her, as many other countries were. And she sent us an MRI machine when she got back home. And I just thought, fuck. I looked at that picture, 1993, over 20 years ago, when we were making Sicko, the statistic that we found in the Congressional Budget Office, they were studying Hillary's bill, and they were studying other bills, and they found that 49,000 Americans die every year for one sole reason, because they didn't have health insurance, or they had inadequate health insurance. 49,000 a year died just for that reason, because they're an American. If they were Canadian, they wouldn't be dead. That's the reason of their death, because they couldn't get to a doctor, wouldn't go to a doctor, afraid to go to a doctor because they couldn't afford it. 49,000 a year, and I did the quick math. I rounded it to 50,000, I rounded it to 20 years. 20 years, 50,000 dead Americans because we don't have universal health insurance, because Hillary was berated and abused and ridiculed and stopped. If we had passed what she wanted to do 20 years ago, 1 million Americans wouldn't have died. 1 million. But the abuse that she took for this, ISIS has killed 13 Americans. 1 million have been killed by our private insurance system. And she tried to stop that. She tried to save 1 million lives. And I looked at that photo on the wall there in Estonia, and I just thought, Jesus. You know, I support Bernie Sanders. I voted for Bernie Sanders. I don't like the fact she takes the money for Goldman Sachs. I'll never forgive her for voting for the war in Iraq. But, you know, I'm not a cynic, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to push with all the other people who voted for Bernie, her to do the right thing, because I know in her heart of hearts, she knows. And she knows how she was treated simply because she was a woman for this. And she, I think, has a long memory. And if she is our president, I think she's going to go in there and do a hell of a lot of good. I really, truly believe that. And I say that there's something big for it. So if you want to end on a note of optimism,